A federal judge in Massachusetts has officially blocked the Trump administration from terminating the deportation protections and work permits of hundreds of thousands of migrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. Those four countries, they might sound familiar. CHNV. CHNV. Those folks had been threatened with deportation. There's about 532,000 of them approximately under the CHNV program that Biden created. Hold on, let me get my air quotes. That Biden created basically out of thin air, as Bill Malhusian described, to allow these folks to come directly into the United States, flying themselves into the United States so that way they wouldn't have to illegally cross. We'll just allow them to fly into the country. And this is the reason why Logan Airport and your Healy hotels were flooded, especially with folks from Haiti due to this Biden program. It was so mismanaged and so wrought with fraud. You were supposed to have a sponsor, for instance, that the Biden administration, let me get my air quotes again. The Biden administration actually had to suspend it themselves for a couple of weeks while they theoretically straightened out the fraud and abuse in the system. You'll also remember this program because that's that's how Corey Alvarez. You remember Corey Alvarez from Rockland Hotel fame, charged with the rape of a 15-year-old girl in a Healy hotel. This is how Corey Alvarez arrived here in the United States. He flew directly from Haiti into New York City. He was sponsored somehow out of New Jersey, and then amazingly ended up in a hotel in Rockland, Massachusetts, living with a woman, not his wife, and with a child, not his child. Like, how do you explain that? That's how bad this program was. That's how bad this program was. If you remember, I went to the aerial port and reported on the massive amount of people that were flooding the aerial port. We don't need to have the music. There we go. Flooding the aerial port. Terminally, this was last May. People flooding the airport. Most likely they were arriving first in either Miami or New York and then taking connecting flights to Boston to take advantage of this program because, of course, we basically had free housing and free healthcare here in Massachusetts. So Trump wanted to put the brakes on this and send these people back because their status here in Massachusetts is not legal immigration status. It's a temporary status for humanitarian purposes only, for humanitarian. And it is not a regular, it's not like they had a green card or anything like that. It's a temporary status which can be provided or revoked at any time based upon executive action. At least that's what most people thought, until this one judge in Boston decided, no, it's okay for the Biden administration to create this type of program. But if the Trump administration wants to use the same executive authority, they cannot do that to rescind the temporary paroled status of these 500 and approximately 32,000 migrants who took advantage of the program. So consequently, the judge is asking for each one of the migrants under this program from Cuba, Nicaragua, Honduras, and Venezuela to have their own individual hearing as to whether or not they can stay in the United States. That, ladies and gentlemen, would not take years. It very well might take decades to actually process all of those hearings. It sometimes can take like 8 years just to get your initial hearing. Imagine if they added, sorry, a little itch in the back there. Imagine if they added 500,000 additional hearing requests to the caseload out of nowhere. Fortunately Unfortunately,
you don't have a right
this
to
will
stay.
probably
Also,
not stand.
I think the Trump
Here's a very
administration
important
believes
lawyer
the former
talk
Deputy Assistant
from
Attorney
Fox
General
News.
and law professor at UC Berkeley. John, welcome. Always good to have you here. So this judge is arguing that if you want to reverse, if this President Trump, wants to do his own executive action that would reverse an executive action by President Biden, she says you can't do it en masse. It's got to be person by person, which obviously would take a really long time with over 500,000 individuals.
Yeah, a really long time.
I'm afraid the judge here has misread the law. This is not like a normal immigration process where people get a visa or they get some kind of permanent legal status to stay in the country.
That is true. Okay, very important, John Yo.
In this case, you do get a hearing before you're deported. This is under a different power that presidents have called parole. Parole specifically says in the law that for humanitarian reasons, the president can let some people into the country, but it confers no permanent legal status as an alien. Your status is unchanged. And it even says that the Department of Homeland Security can end it at any time. You have no right to stay in the country, and your status is just the same as it was.
Hence the phrase temporary parole.
So actually, in this case, I would say that the president could terminate all these emissions under the parole program. That's what Congress said. And then if any of them have some kind of right to stay, for example, they got married to an American or they got a green card while they were here, they would have to go to court and show that they don't have to leave. So I think this judge has gotten it backwards. And I expect that ultimately a higher court will reverse her.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to ask you, if you believe the higher court might reverse. There's also indications that a lot of these people put false information on their applications for this program to begin with. Would that also automatically put them in a pile that means that they were not eligible for this parole because they...
Right. And as I said earlier, I mean, the Biden administration themselves suspended this program because it was wrought with fraud.
They misrepresented themselves.
Of course, if you lie on your papers when you come in the first place, then you don't have a right to stay. Also, I think the Trump administration believes that President Biden misused the parole program entirely. It's there for humanitarian reasons to give, special cases a chance to come in, like for a hurricane or a civil war. President Biden appeared to use it for whole countries, I think without a showing that there's any humanitarian need, just because he wanted to have a faster way to allow people into the country. Now, the harder question you start out with, Martha, is a higher court going to be able to step in fast enough to stop this? This is just another example, as we've seen in other cases challenging Trump's agenda, where district judges spread out all around the country, rather than just decide the facts before them and apply it to the people in their courtroom, they have tried to enjoin and stop the entire government nationwide from pursuing a presidential policy.
Yeah.
Which reminds me, of course, of that joke, I think it was from the Babylon Bee on April 1st, April Fool's Day. Trump resigns presidency to take job as a district court judge on the federal bench because theoretically, the local district court judge on the federal bench has more power than the president themselves. We almost live in a society right now where you have to get every federal judge on board with any policy before the president can move forward, right? Like any federal judge is more powerful than the president themselves. That's where we're living in right now. Bill Malugin tweeting this out earlier today. Biden administration created the program out of thin air using his executive parole authority, and it was temporarily halted due to fraud in the program. And this judge is now blocking Trump from using his own authority to cancel the parole grants. The judge says there needs to be a case by case evaluation for every individual that flew into the U.S. under the program. Again, a completely and absolutely unworkable solution. And Caroline Leavitt from the podium today at the White House said that the White House Trump administration will pursue all legal alternatives to overturn this decision by the Boston federal judge. And so that's going to go up to the food chain. Probably, it wouldn't surprise me that this goes all the way to the United States Supreme Court. And this is a huge issue in Massachusetts because it's highly likely of the 532,000 that took advantage of this program, highly likely we have at least tens of thousands of people in Massachusetts that took advantage of this program that might have to go back because they had temporary parole status. And if the Trump administration gets its way, that temporary status will be revoked. And of course, there is a meaning to the word temporary. Temporary means not forever. And yeah, so it might go back. It might go back, and we will keep you posted as this story develops nationwide, and very big impact here in Massachusetts. Most likely tens of thousands of people here in Massachusetts directly affected by this ruling and this Trump policy. We'll keep you posted.